Okay, this video is going to be very interesting because I'm going to do something incredibly stupid. You see, I've got this series on my channel where I remake games from memory. I've done this for both Hollow Knight and Stardew Valley, and both those videos did really well. So, of course, I want to make another one. But here's the issue, I have no games left. No, that's not entirely true. I have plenty of games that I've got so many hours in, I could recreate them in my dreams. But those are games like Warframe and Apex Legends, not exactly suitable for a challenge like this. Because, you know, preferably the game would be 2D, obviously. A pixel art would be great. It should probably be like relatively simple gameplay. Obviously, it should be very popular and, wait, what's that? The Binding of Isaac. It's perfect, you say. Well, that's a real shame because I've never actually played it, so obviously we can't. Alright, so here we are inside of The Binding of Isaac. This is my very first time playing it, and here's how this is going to work. I'm going to play for exactly 1 hour, and when I'm finished, I won't be allowed to play it again until I've finished my own recreation, which, again, I'll have to do completely from memory. Oh, and because that wasn't complicated enough, I'm also giving myself just 3 days to work on it. So, no time to waste. Wait, are all the enemies just a bunch of different versions of me? Alright, I recognize a boss room when I see it. Ooh, chest. Right, guess we're doing this. Oh, I'm gonna die here, aren't I? He's low. Oh god, it's a second phase. Almost. No! No! Right, let's restart. What's this? Ooh, item. I don't know what that does. I keep spawning bombs because I think that E is the interact button. Oh, item is the space bar. Oh, when you hurt yourself on these, it spawns a chest. I like that. That's a good mechanic. Okay, I'm dead again. Why is there so much poop in this game? Oh, he's shitting. He's definitely shitting. Bunch of flies. Oh, oh, oh. There we go. I did it. I killed my first boss. Oh, spiders. No, there's spiders here. Ah. Oh no. I'm dead. That's an hour already. Wow, time flew. I want to keep going, to be honest. But rules are rules. I said an hour, so we're going to keep it here. Time to make this, I guess. Okay, so I started by drawing Isaac, and this is my first attempt. Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, I mean, I kind of tried to freehand it, but that didn't work. So I then decided to make a bit more of a symmetrical version, which is much better. Now, The Binding of Isaac does do something that I normally never do, which is to have double outlines for the pixel art, so that took a bit of getting used to, but I think overall this version looks very good, and this version looks very bad. So let's go ahead and put this guy into the game. Alright, so even if we screw up literally everything else in the game, this has to be incredibly accurate, right? This just has to be the way that Isaac looks. I can't imagine him looking any different than this. But of course, this isn't all we have to do. We have to make an entire game. So let's start by making this guy move. Alright, let's go ahead and add this to the player. And now if I go ahead and press the arrow keys, there we go. We now have a moving player. Awesome. Now, of course, just being able to move isn't enough. We also need to be able to shoot. So I went ahead and also made some shooting logic, as you can see right here. They're just red cubes at the moment, which is totally fine. Of course, we'll replace them with proper bullets at some point. But what I do think is very important is that we can shoot and move independently, because we move with the WASD keys and we shoot with the arrow keys, which is of course the controls of Isaac. So we now have pretty much the basic player controls all finished. So now I think it's time to focus on actually making all of this look decent, because currently it doesn't look very good. Alright, so first things first, we obviously got to give Isaac some different direction, so he's not just facing the camera all the time, because that's not realistic. So I went ahead and made both different body directions, as you can see right here, as well as different head directions for when he's facing all different ways. As you can also see, I've made those separately, which is incredibly important, because of course when you're shooting, the head is supposed to face the way that the bullet is going and not the way the body is moving. And speaking of the body moving, I also went ahead and made some walking animations, which do not look good at all. These are not good animations, which if you've seen this channel before, you know that I'm not great at animating, so this is the best that I can do for now. Of course, I also went ahead and made animations for the side movement, which look even worse somehow, and something that really did quite annoy me is that I couldn't make make the head move up and down when walking, because normally that's what you do when you make a walking animation, but I couldn't here because the head is just completely separate from the body. And I remember looking at the game and thinking, wait, the head doesn't bob with the body, it's just completely separate. And that's because for Isaac, the focal point is not the body, the focal point is the head, right? So the head is basically moving through the space and the body is just kind of attached to it. So that's kind of what I try to recreate with these walking animations and with Isaac in general, which yes, looks a bit weird when we're not actually moving, but in the actual game it should be fine. So let's go ahead and actually put these animations into the game. But before we actually get to that, this video is sponsored by Boot.dev. Now, if you're someone who's always wanted to learn how to code but had just absolutely no idea where to start, this might be your chance, because Boot.dev provides the exact tools you need in order to actually be able to learn how to code, both for complete beginners and already experienced programmers. To give you an example, even though I code nearly every single day, I had actually never learned how to use Python before, one of the most popular programming languages. So for this, I decided to give it a go, and wow, I was thoroughly impressed, because the truth is, the only way to learn how to code is to actually write code. And by write, I don't just mean watching a tutorial and copying everything that they do. No, I mean being able to actually look at the code, understand what it says, and figuring out how to solve your specific problem. And this is exactly what Boot.dev teaches you, because instead of just telling you the theory, they ask you to actually fix the problem and write a solution. This means you are learning in the exact same way that you'll eventually be using it. And this actually goes for everything, even if you're not a beginner. Like, let's say you want to learn how to use AWS or learn memory management in C, which is notoriously very difficult. You can apply these exact same learning techniques and they work just as well. So if you're ready to learn how to start coding, learn new programming languages, or learn how to use those languages in a more complex way, I highly recommend trying Boot.dev. There's a free demo available for every single course, so you can actually try it out completely for free. And when you do sign up, there's a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. So no worries if it turns out it's not for you. So if you're ready to start coding, go to Boot.dev and use code Deynum Studio to get 25% off your first purchase. Thank you so much to Boot.dev for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. Alright, so I went ahead and put in all of the different animations. As you can see here, we have a bunch of different ones, like this, for example, walk left. As you can see, the head is not going left in this case. That's because the head is actually being animated completely separately. Currently, there's only the idle animation because it doesn't need to do anything else. But this way, we can animate the body entirely separately from the head, which is really useful because obviously the head needs to point somewhere else sometimes. But yeah, so if we go ahead and hit play now, you can see that when we move, the body is completely animated and the head also currently moves to where we are moving, right? So if we're not shooting, the head just follows the body. But if we now start to shoot, you can see that the head is moving completely separately from the body. However, there is obviously one tiny issue right now, which is that we're still shooting red squares, and also the head's not doing anything. It's just kind of looking in different directions. So let's go ahead and animate both the tear bullets and the head shooting animations. Okay, so I went ahead and added both a tear bullet, as you can see right here. It's very simple. I mean, it's a water droplet. Like, how much can you do with it? Not much. And also these, like, tear shooting frames, I guess. Like, it's just basically Isaac blinking. That's all it is. Because I remember looking at that and thinking, okay, what is he doing when he's shooting? And I saw, yeah, okay, he's blinking or closing his eyes or something like that. So I try to kind of recreate that. I also went ahead and obviously animated it to give it some like juiciness or jumpiness. I don't really know. I stretched it, right? That's all I really did. As you can see, like, I did it for every single angle and I did it in a bit of a weird way. So I can't really show the animation here, but basically this is just to make sure that the shooting has a little bit of impact. All right, so if we now go ahead and go back to the game, if we now shoot our bullets, yeah, you can see that Isaac now blinks, which when he does, it shoots a little tear bullet, which looks really nice. And I think it's just the right amount of juiciness for this to work, right? It's not too big, it's not too small. He's just kind of doing a little blinking animation with his head and a bullet comes out, which is perfect. And with that done, I actually think that is Isaac pretty much entirely done. And he looks pretty good. Like, I would say that this is probably about like 80 to 90% accuracy. Like, if I just look at it, I recognize this from the game. I would not be surprised if this would just be in the game, right? Which is awesome. I think we did a great job. But of course, currently we are still in this huge blue void. So let's go ahead and actually make some environments for this game. Alright, so Isaac takes place in all of these little rooms, right? And the thing is, what I remember is that the perspective of these rooms is a little bit weird, because most top-down games choose to have sort of like a side-on perspective for like their walls and stuff. But I think that Isaac, and I'm pretty sure because I thought there was a bit of an interesting thing, does it where every wall is viewed from the side, which is a strange perspective to work with, and so I kind of tried to see if I could do it here, but it's actually quite difficult because, like, as you can see, these lines are already not matching perfectly. So it's really kind of a work in progress where I'm trying to make sure that it all looks like it's pointing down, right? So every wall is kind of, you know, it's really big at the top because that's the closest to the camera, and then it gets smaller as it goes down. But yeah, it's a bit of a tricky perspective to work with, so I'm going to try to see if I can actually make this thing look good, and yeah, we'll see what it looks like when I'm finished with it. Okay, I never should have doubted myself. This looks awesome. I am so incredibly happy with what I made. The perspective is still a little bit funky, I'll give you that, but like, it looks so good. This is almost exactly what I remember the rooms looking like. Like, this is pretty much identical to my memory of the rooms, like these giant bricks of sandstone that make up the entire walls, like all of the grime and dirt. Like, this is a dirty place. Like, this game is just, it's grime and dirt and blood and poop literally everywhere, and so that was really quite fun to work with. I also tried to make it, you know, go from really light at the top to like darker down at the bottom. It's a bit of a subtle effect, so you can't really see it that well, but I think it does do something for the perspective just overall. But yeah, I'm so happy with this. I think it genuinely looks both incredible on its own, but I also think that this is really close to what is actually in the game. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. But of course, the game doesn't just have walls, and it also doesn't just have one room, so I also went ahead and made these doors, which I'm pretty happy with. I mean, they're quite simple, sure, but yeah, this perspective seems good. Like, it's big at the top, small at the bottom, which is what we have for the entire rooms. They're also this same like sandstone texture, which I'm pretty sure is what the game does as well. Maybe I'm wrong about that, like I could be misremembering these things entirely, but yeah, I think these are pretty decent doors. I also made the open version of them, which is just basically a small gradient on top of the door texture, which I actually like, because you can see here I did some what is it called, like dithering, I think it's called. I don't do that very often, so it was fun to do it here, and I do think that it looks like a good fade effect, and it just generally looks like the door is open now. And so yeah, I'm very pleased with this thing overall, with both the doors and the walls and just everything. Like, this is the exact vibe that I was imagining for these rooms, and I'm glad I was able to capture that. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this thing into the game. Alright, so here we have it inside of the actual game, and wow, does it look good. I am absolutely in love with how this looks, and yeah, I mean, it has to be so close to the actual game, right? There's still a couple of issues though, which, as you can see, if we shoot, there's no colliders yet. So we can just walk across the walls. We can walk outside of the room if we want to. I haven't set any of that up yet, and neither do the doors actually work. They can't open. They're not really even actual doors. They're just sprites that are kind of there. So yeah, there's still a lot to be done, but let's go ahead and start by turning the doors into actual doors. Right, so the first step to doing that is to have the doors be able to open and close. So I made this animation, which looks a little bit funky, but I remember the doors doing something like this, like being very juicy and having these big animations. So I kind of tried to recreate that. I might be totally wrong here, and it might just be a very subtle effect, but this is kind of what I remember, so I recreated that. I also went ahead and made a close animation, which is a little bit slower than the open one. I don't quite know why I did that, but this is just kind of what felt right. So let's go ahead and put both of these animations into the game. Okay, and here's the actual door in the game. As you can see, I've added the animations, which look like this, pretty much identical to what I just showed you. But more importantly, I also made the actual functionality for being able to go into doors, because as you can see here, I've added a box collider, which if the player interacts with it, we actually go to the next room, which should all be functioning. So let me go ahead and show you that. Alright, so as you can see, we're currently in the game. Now I'm going to open the doors with just a key on my keyboard. There we go. And if we now go ahead and walk in, there we are. You can see that we're actually able to move to the next room, and the doors even close automatically. Except of course we're not done yet, because even though we can move upwards through doors, we actually can't move down. As you can see, nothing happens, right? This door doesn't do anything, and we also don't have any doors on the sides of the rooms. So let's go ahead and make the door actually work in all 4 directions. All right, here we are in a 4-doored room, and I mean, I'm not going to show the top door because we already showed that one. Let's do the left one. As you can see, we can walk through them, no problem. There you go. I also increased the speed when you go through the doors a little bit so that you can move from room to room just a little bit quicker. It's barely noticeable, but it is there. So it's a bit less of a transition now, which I think is a good thing, because obviously you don't want to spend too much time in that little in-between area. But yeah, I think this looks great. We can basically move forever through an infinite amount of rooms, and we can go literally anywhere, which is absolutely perfect. That's pretty much identical to what Isaac does. So yeah, that's completely finished. We have the rooms themselves officially done. So now it's time to actually go ahead and put some things in this room. And by things, I of course mean enemies. Alright, and here's the easiest enemy that we're going to make in this entire game, because it's basically just Isaac, but with red tears. And I remember this enemy quite, detailed. Basically, it's just an enemy that walks towards you. That's all it does. It has red tears, it's you, and it just walks towards where you are, and if it comes into contact with you, you obviously lose health. So, it's an incredibly easy enemy, but there is one interesting thing about it, which is that when it dies, it turns into this enemy, which is just the body, but without a head, and that is a little bit more interesting to make, especially because there is actually a behavioral difference that I found quite interesting, because I remember quite specifically that this enemy chases you, right? That's just what it does. And when you kill it, it of course turns into this enemy that doesn't have a head. And what happens then is it stops chasing you. Why? Because of course it doesn't have a head, it doesn't have eyes, it doesn't know where you are, so it just starts moving around randomly. And I just thought that was really fun when I was playing the game, and so I remember that quite, vividly. And so I went ahead and recreated that here. Of course, we're just reusing most of this because, it's just Isaac, right? It is just Isaac, which means that we can pretty much reuse all of the animations and we don't really have to do much. So we can get straight to actually putting this enemy into the game. Okay, and here it is in the actual game. Now, the only thing I really had to change was the head, because that obviously had to be slightly different. But the body is literally the exact same as Isaac. Like, it is the same sprite, it's the same animations, it's the same everything. I also made some very simple behavior for it, which is just basically it moves towards player, it gets hit when it gets hit, and if it dies, then it spawns the body enemy, which you can see right here, which I've made separately. So it spawns this one when it dies, and this also just has some very simple behavior. So if we now go ahead and play the game, we should be able to see this thing in action. Alright, yeah, as you can see, it is definitely chasing me. It's a bit slower than the player, which is good, so that the player can actually get, ahead of it, get away from it. It's not supposed to be a very difficult enemy. We can also shoot it, and as you can see, there is a little bit of an impact animation. It's not too powerful. Sorry, I already killed it. Oh, it had little health. Yeah, as you can see, when you eventually do kill it, it turns into the body enemy, which is quicker currently. I'm not sure I want to keep that. I'm kind of on the fence. Also, you might notice that it doesn't look very good. I agree with that. The body animations for the player in general, I'm not very happy with. But yeah, that's the general enemy. I really should have given it more health, even if just for this explanation, because it didn't last very long. But yeah, these are very standard beginner enemies, so they're not supposed to be incredibly difficult. So yeah, that's the very first enemy in the game. pretty much entirely done. We'll add some more effects to it later just to make it all feel a bit more satisfying. However, there is one more thing that I'd like to do, which is, of course, currently this enemy just kind of moves from side to side across the room, right? It doesn't really do anything else. And normally this enemy is actually kind of interesting because there's rocks everywhere in the Binding of Isaac. Like everywhere, in every room, there's tons of rocks, and because of that, this actually becomes an interesting enemy because it's constantly bouncing off those rocks. And so to actually like properly finish this enemy, I feel like we have to go ahead and add some rocks. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so when it comes to rocks, I had to take a big swing because, to be completely honest, I don't quite remember what they look like, but I do remember looking at them and thinking about, you know, what they look like, but I don't remember the image. I just remember the description I gave myself, if that makes sense. So I remember the words, I just don't remember the shapes themselves. So with the words, I managed to make this, which is 4 separate rocks. And I'll tell you how I did it, right? I'll tell you the words that I remembered. Specifically, I remembered 3 things. I remembered first that they had outlines, right? There were outlines for the rocks. I also remember that they weren't like black outlines, but they did have very clearly dark outlines. So that's something that I did. I also remembered that the rocks had these separate faces, if that makes sense. You know, if you have a 3D shape, you can have like different like things that are facing you, if that makes sense. Like this would be like darker, or this would be darker, and then this would be lighter or something like that. You know, different faces that all have different like light levels. That's something that I remember them having, so that's kind of what I did here as well. So I have one big like bright face on the top, and then like darker faces on the side, and like I remember them being like ragged, if that makes sense. Like they're not smooth rocks, they're ragged rocks. But it's kind of weird having like the description in your head but not having the actual image. So I don't know if I got close. I have no idea. Like, I might have been spot on. I might be like a million miles away, right? Because I just cannot for the life of me remember. Like, when I try to remember the rocks, I see a blur, right? I just see a dark blur. So this is kind of what I had to do, and I'm glad that I took the time because, you know, when playing the game I noticed there's a ton of rocks. I need to remember what these things look like. So I specifically try to memorize like the description that I could give myself. And this is the result of that. So I hope that this is close. I think that there's a chance that it might be. There's also a good chance that it's not. So yeah, but I'm honestly pretty happy with them. Like, just on their own, maybe separate from what the actual game looks like, I think these are pretty good rocks. So yeah, let's go ahead and put these rocks into the game. All right, here we are. Rocks. Huzzah! Sorry. I just realised I don't really have anything to talk about. They're just rocks. Like, it's not like I can show you something interesting that I did. They're just rocks. Like, yeah, you can't walk into them. That's all I did. I prevented you from walking inside of the rock. That is the extent to like everything that I did inside of the game. Oh, and I added shadows. That's a pretty big thing. Like, as you can see, the rocks have shadows. Isaac has shadows. There are no shadows. And yeah, that is all I did. However, we do now have rocks, obviously, which is very good, very exciting, very fun, because it means that we can add one of the most fun features in The Binding of Isaac, which is the bomb. Right? We can go and add our bombs. Now, I'll be honest, in the actual game, I more often than not use the bomb by accident rather than on purpose, but it was really fun to explode rocks and enemies and stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and make a bomb. Alright, and here's the bomb sprite that I made, and I gotta be honest, I am real happy with this one. Like, I don't think I could have done a better job than this. Like, down to the skull and the shading and whatever this little thing is, I think this is genuinely perfect. Just straight up. Now, I gotta be honest as well, I don't know if this is like identical to the actual game. Like, the only thing I remembered is that it was dark and it had a skull. Like, that is the extent of my memories of the bomb in Isaac. So, you know, that's what I made, and even though I think it looks very good, of course, it could be totally different in the actual game. I don't know that. But yeah, I'm very happy with it. I think it looks very good. Now, we do, of course, need to also make, like, the exploding animation for when it actually explodes, except there's one tiny issue with that. I don't want to do it, because it's a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time, and I do not have a lot of time, and I don't want to, you know, put in the effort. So we are doing the cop-out version, which is using white. It's not going to look just like this. I'll show you the actual animation in a second, but basically we're just going to use white to kind of simulate a really bright light, and then we can kind of, you know, ignore all of the like smoke and fire and stuff. Like, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to make it pure white because that's the only way I'm ever going to do this. So yeah, let me go ahead and show you this animation. Alright, and here's the actual animation. As you can already see, there is like some detail in this thing, because I try to kind of simulate smoke like this, and also I have this like impact ring, and as it goes, you can see that it goes like outwards, and like the smoke gets pulled to the side, and I mean, I love this animation. I think it looks very good. Let me actually show you it in full. Like, this is a good animation. I am very, very pleased with it. It's not going to be as good as having like a ton of smoke and fire and all that like stuff, but like for just a pure white explosion thingy, like this is very good. Like, it's very smooth. I'm very happy with this animation. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what it actually looks like in the actual game. Alright, are you guys ready? I mean, I've already seen it. I'm still excited because it's just such a satisfying animation. Alright, we're gonna put it right here. Right, here we go. Oh, bam. I mean, that, if that's just not a satisfying animation, I don't know what is. Like, that's just, it's so good, right? Like, also like the flickering and that getting faster over time. Like, I love that. I genuinely think it looks really good. Again, I don't think this is what it looks like in the actual game, but just, you know, it's a good bomb. It's a good bomb. I'm very happy with that being a bomb, right? And also, we can go to this room now. Hey, new rocks, more things that we can blow up with bombs. Yeah, I mean, I love this. This is great. I'm very happy with this. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing we're going to make, which is yet another enemy. And this time it's one that I remember less well. I call it the big head enemy, which is a bit of a weird name. Basically, I remember there being an enemy that had a bunch of like stuff on its head. Like, I don't know what the word is. Like a bunch of bruises maybe, or like a bunch of like stuff with like pus in it. Like, I don't know what those things are called. I just don't know the words right now. But as you can see, that's kind of what I tried to do here. In fact, I have multiple versions of this guy's head. I started off with this, which is quite small, and then I realized, yeah, this thing is not big enough, because if I put it next to Isaac, his head is actually smaller than Isaac's, and I realized, oh yeah, I need to make sure this guy actually has, you know, a big head, because that's the one thing I remember. So like, I turned it into this, but I thought, yeah, this is still about like the same size, that's not big enough. And then I made this, which is like the big head, and this actually looks like a guy with a big head, right? So, you know, it went through multiple versions. Now, I don't quite remember what it looked like, so I'm just kind of spitballing here, but that it has all of these, like, what are these called? Like, they're not pimples. Like, anyway, he has a weird misshapen head. That's the main thing that I remember. And the reason I remember it is actually not because of the head. It's because I remember these, which are a bunch of, like, fly enemies. I remember these things coming out of his head. So when you kill him, it would spawn a bunch of flies, and because of that, I couldn't get the image out of my head that there were a bunch of flies like stuck inside of his brain. And like, that is the reason I didn't forget this guy. It's just because that image has not left me, and honestly, it has probably kind of scarred me. So I kind of also try to draw it as if there's a bunch of flies inside, and they're trying to get out, which is, again, it's not a nice image to have in your head, but that's kind of what I think of when I think of this enemy. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this guy into the game. Alright, and here he is inside of the game. Now again, we're able to reuse the body sprite and all of the animations for it, which is great because it means less work for me. But when it comes to the head, I did went ahead and make another animation. Except I made it inside of the game by just stretching the actual sprite, which normally is not a thing I like to do. Like, animations like these I try to avoid, but I did do it in this case because, one, I am pretty sure that the game does this as well. Like, Binding of Isaac has animations like these, and I think I remember it specifically for this enemy as well, where it has this like stretching animation, so I had to figure out a way to do that. And if you did this in like a pixel drawing program, you would not get a smooth stretch like this, because of course, like, you can't go in between pixels, so you get like maybe 1 or 2 frames, and that's just not enough to make an animation like this. So I decided to bite the bullet and just kind of do it in game. But of course, we didn't just make animation for it, I also went ahead and made some behavior, so if we now go ahead and play the game, it should all work. Okay, and here we are. Now, as you can see, the enemy is just basically moving in random directions. It's not chasing the player, it's not going to a specific place, and I'm pretty sure this is the behavior in the actual game. But as you can see, if we try and go and hit it now, you can see that it can take damage. It also has that red damage effect, and eventually, if we kill it, there we go, it spawns a bunch of flies, which we can then also go ahead and kill. And I think this is a pretty good enemy. I think this is probably pretty accurate to what was actually in the game, and I'm happy with the actual implementation of it. It feels pretty good to fight. It's quite interesting. We actually have another enemy here, which is the same type that we just made, and the crying enemy. And yeah, I think this is a pretty good enemy. I'm quite happy with it. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing that we have to make, which is not going to be fun, because sadly this game contains a lot of poop. So I had to draw poop, which I did not enjoy. I wish I'd remembered more things in the game so I could just make those instead, but no, this is pretty much like one of the main things that I remember, so I had to make it. Yeah, it's poop. I don't really know what to say about it. Like, this was my first attempt, which I don't think looks very good. I think this is a bit better. Like, this is a better turd, I guess, than this. Oh my god, it's so stupid. But yeah, I also had to make like different destruction states, because of course you're able to destroy the poop in this game. Like, the sentences coming out of my mouth, I don't like them. But yeah, against my will, let's go and put this thing into the game, and here it is. Poop. How fun, how exciting. Yeah, it does so much. It's so, I mean, you can destroy it. That's about it. My energy has been drained by this. I mean, I think it looks fine. It looks like poop. I think I did a good job at making poop. I do not enjoy the poop making process. It's done now. It's done, right? We're done making poop. I wish I could say that, but no, we're not out of the woods yet, because there is also a poop enemy. And I mean, at least this one looks a little bit more cartoony, and it's not as detailed as this one, which makes it a little bit less gross. But, you know, it's still gross. Also, you might notice that it doesn't look very good. That's because I didn't really try, because I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend, you know, an hour plus of my life trying to make a poop enemy, which, I mean, come on, what is this game? But yeah, no, this will work just fine. Like, the way this enemy is going to work is going to dash at you, so this is going to be like the regular state that he's in, and then when he dashes, he kind of goes into this, which, yeah, that'll work. So let's go ahead and actually make this enemy. Alright, yep, here it is. I mean, I'll happily admit it, this is by far the worst enemy I've made in this entire game, and it's not close. It really isn't. He kind of sucks. It's not a good enemy. He doesn't look very good. The attack isn't very good. Just everything about it is kind of bad. As you can see, I reused like the big head enemy animation technique. Well, now you can't see it anymore. This sucks. Alright, so as you can see now, it uses the big head, like, stretch animation. It uses literally the exact same one. It also kind of speeds up as he dashes, which I guess is kind of interesting. But yeah, not a good enemy, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about this enemy being really bad. However, one thing that I do want to do, both for this enemy and all the other enemies in the game, is that when you kill them, I want something to happen. I want them to kind of leave some sort of trace, because in Binding of Isaac, when you kill an entire room of enemies, there is blood everywhere. So I kind of want to simulate that in this game as well, because, you know, currently when you defeat enemies, it doesn't feel great. They just kind of disappear. So I want that to be remedied. Alright, so I went ahead and made just a bunch of different blood spatters, which, I mean, there's nothing much to it. It's blood spatters, and we can actually go ahead and spawn these when we kill an enemy, like below where the enemy was, which allows us to kind of get the effect of the enemy, like, exploding or, like, falling to the ground and leaving a bunch of blood without actually having to make all of those animations, because that would take way too long and we just do not have that kind of time. Also, I went ahead and made these for the poop enemy, because, like, it wouldn't make sense for him to drop blood, so I thought, you know, let it make poop stains or whatever. I don't like the poop enemy. I think I've made that very clear. So he should be happy that he gets his own stain. He should be glad about it, because I shouldn't have put in the effort. But yeah, let's go ahead and put these things into the game. Alright, so if I've done everything correctly and we go ahead and kill these enemies, they should drop some blood when they get killed. There we go. I mean, that actually looks pretty good. I like that. I think that's a good effect. I mean, I did it also for every single fly, which is probably a bit overkill. But like now, when we kill these enemies, like, there's actually blood left. Like, this looks awesome. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. Alright, so one of the final things that we still have to add to the game is some items, right? And so I went ahead and made this, which is a chest. I mean, it's a chest, right? What else is there to say? I'm pretty happy with the design. It's maybe a bit too light, like, that's my main concern. But I also think, like, if I make it darker, it's just going to kind of blend in with the ground, so I didn't really want to do that. Also, I try to give it like an outline, just like with the rocks, like a darker outline, but it doesn't look like it has an outline. But every time I tried to make the outline even darker, it just looked really bad. So this is going to be fine for now. I also went ahead and made 2 items for this chest to like drop when it opens. I don't know what the word is for that. The first item is a coin, right? It's just a coin. It's a very simple thing. I mean, I didn't spend too much time drawing this. It's a very simple coin. And now there isn't really a purpose to these coins. And to be honest, I still don't really know what the purpose is in the Binding of Isaac. Like, I got coins, but I didn't really know what to do with them. So yeah, I just made a coin for this chest to drop. And I also made this item, which is a pin. And the reason that I made the pin item is because, and I kid you not, it is the single item in the game that I actually know what it does. Like, that's crazy. Like, I played the game for an hour. There is one item that I know the purpose of, and that is the pin. That's the only item that I know. Because what the pin does is it turns the tears into pins. Or not all the tears. Sorry, it turns like some of the tears into pins instead. Right? So instead of like firing constant tears, like every third tear will be a pin. Right? And the pin does more damage, I guess. That's actually something I'm not sure about. I assume it does more damage, because otherwise I don't really know what the purpose of the item is. But like, that is the only item that I kind of know what it does. So yeah, I went ahead and made that. So let's go ahead and put all of this into the game and make it actually function. Alright, so first things first, I went ahead and made just the chest, because the Binding of Isaac actually has a very interesting way of opening chests, which is not with like an interact button or anything, but it's by walking into it, which I think is so incredibly interesting. Like, that is such a good mechanic. And then you can also like kind of push the chest around, which I think is fun as well. But yeah, that's a really satisfying and interesting way of opening the chest. So I went ahead and did that as well. And it's very simple how it works. Basically, it just keeps track of how far it's being moved. And if that is above like a certain degree, it opens. And that's such a simple way of creating such an interesting mechanic. So yeah, I think there's a great mechanic, very easy to make. And so with the chest being able to be opened, what we can do then is we can select the items that we want to come out of this chest, and we can select the amount of that item. Right now I've got it set as 15 coins, and if we go ahead and play the game, we can see what that looks like. Right, here we are. You guys ready? That's really fun, right? Also, as you can see, like, I gave a little bit of a delay between each item, so it really just looks as if the chest is spewing the coins, and I think that's just really fun. Also, just quick side note, do you guys want to see 100 coins? I kind of want to see 100 coins. All right, let's see what this looks like. Oh, that's really satisfying. That's fun. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, it is a bit of a perfect circle at the moment. I didn't make like a variable for like how far they go, so it's just literally a perfect circle. But yeah, I think this is really fun. As you can see as well, I added a little bit of a pickup animation, and I mean, that's just really satisfying, right? And that's exactly what you want from a chest like this. Right, and finally, I also went ahead and made the pin item and added that to the chest. I also changed how it works. A chest now always produces a coin and sometimes produces an item, which is a better way of handling it. But either way, if we now go ahead and play the game, we should be getting 2 coins and 1 item. There we go. Right, and we can pick up the coins, and we can also pick up the item. And as you can see, we now have in the top left corner the item display thingy. I don't really know, it just shows you that you have this item active right now. And if we go ahead in here and we start shooting, you can see that every 3rd bullet turns into a pin, and this pin actually does double damage to enemies, so it does twice the amount of damage that a tier does, which is pretty insignificant, I will say, but like, that's what I remember, so that's what I have to make. And with that, we are done. That is 3 days of work, and I gotta be honest, I added a ton of stuff to this game. I was not imagining that I'd make this much. Like, this video is incredibly long, so I hope you did kind of enjoy it. Of course, the important part is still to come, because I have to go and see how wrong I was. Like, I gotta be honest, I really like my version of the game, but I am not sure if it's close to the actual game. Like, I think it looks great. I'm very, very happy with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's close to the actual game. But of course, there's only one way to find out. Alright, so this is the first time I've played it since I started making the game, and I mean, I got those bricks pretty spot on, didn't I? Like, that is about the exact same texture that I did. Although, I gotta be honest, the whole thing is a lot darker than I remember it being, and a lot more red-ish. Like, it's not as yellowish as I thought it was. It's a lot more like dark red colors. But yeah, those bricks are really good. The doors, like, I remember the doors, apparently. Like, those look pretty much identical to mine, I'd say. Alright, I don't recognize these enemies, although the poop, I think I got pretty accurately. Like, that is about what I made. Okay, wait, alright, yeah, I did make those flies, which that actually looks really close to what I made. I'm very happy with that. Although I didn't make this guy because I didn't remember him. And also, the rocks. I think I got the collar wrong, but like, that looks really close to what I made, doesn't it? Like, wow. I thought I'd be like completely wrong. Like, of course, I tried to like memorize what they look like, but I didn't think I was that close. That's nearly identical. Oh wait, these enemies I made as well. Yeah, these are the like crying enemies I made. Yeah, they're just Isaac, but they chase you, and when you kill them, they do indeed turn into those bodies, and they do stop chasing you when you do that. Oh, that's so fun. Okay, this room is just... Why does this room exist? It's just poop. It's just poop and a bunch of rocks. I mean, yeah, overall, I'm very, very happy with what I made. I mean, it looks so close to the actual game, doesn't it? It really, really does. I mean, of course, the actual game is a lot more detailed. I knew that was going to be the case. But just overall, like, I think I did a great job. Like, I'm really happy with what I made. It just looks so good, even if it wasn't like an Isaac remake. Just on its own, I think it really does look great. So yeah, this was really fun. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing me make this game, even if the video was a little bit longer than I expected. If you want to see me remake more games from memory, you can click on this video right here. And if you just generally want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.